The rain came down hard that Tuesday afternoon in late October and the streets of downtown glistened like polished silver under the gray sky. Sarah Bennett stood at the corner of Madison and Fifth watching the drops bounce off the pavement and checking her watch for the third time in as many minutes. 2:15. Her interview was scheduled for 2:30 and the subway had just announced delays on her line. She had been preparing for this moment for 6 weeks ever since she saw the posting for assistant director at the Riverside Community Center. It was exactly the kind of position she had dreamed about since graduating with her social work degree 3 years ago. A chance to really make a difference. A chance to finally use everything she had learned. She pulled her coat tighter and was about to make a run for it when she heard a sound that made her stop. A small cry, almost lost in the drumming of the rain. Sarah turned and saw her. An elderly woman in a red dress now soaked through was sitting on the wet sidewalk near a bus stop bench. Her white hair hung in damp strands around her face and she was trying to stand but her legs seemed unwilling to cooperate. A small puddle of water had formed around her and her hands trembled as she reached for the bench. People rushed past, umbrellas bobbing, heads down. Everyone had somewhere to be. Sarah looked at her watch again. 2:17. If she helped she would definitely miss her interview. There would be no time to get the woman somewhere safe and still make it across town. She had worked so hard for this opportunity. Had practiced her answers. Had researched everything about the organization. The woman tried again to stand and slipped slightly. A soft whimper escaped her lips. Sarah closed her eyes for just a moment and took a breath. Then she walked over and knelt down beside the woman. "Hello there," Sarah said gently. "My name is Sarah. Can you tell me what happened?" The woman looked up at her with pale blue eyes that were clouded with confusion and perhaps a touch of fear. "I fell," she said softly. "I was trying to catch the bus and my legs just gave out. I have been sitting here and no one stops." "Well, I am here now," Sarah said. "Let me help you up and we will get you somewhere warm and dry." She slipped her arm under the woman's shoulder and helped her to her feet. The woman was lighter than Sarah expected and she wobbled unsteadily. Sarah noticed a small cut on the woman's forehead and what looked like the beginning of a bruise on her cheek. "What is your name?" Sarah asked. "Dorothy," the woman said. "Dorothy Chambers. Nice to meet you, Dorothy. Do you live nearby?" Dorothy nodded slowly. "Just 3 blocks that way. The Glenwood Apartments. But I do not think I can walk that far." Sarah looked around. The rain was getting heavier and the wind had picked up. She pulled out her phone and checked the time. 2:21. She thought about calling the community center to explain but she knew how these things worked. They had 12 other candidates scheduled. If you could not show up on time you were not serious about the job. She put her phone away. "Okay, Dorothy. We are going to take this nice and slow. I have got you." They began walking and it was slow going. Dorothy shuffled more than walked and Sarah had to stop every few feet to let her catch her breath. The rain pelted them both and Sarah's interview outfit was now completely ruined. Her carefully pressed blouse clung to her skin and her shoes made squishing sounds with every step. But Dorothy kept apologizing. "I am so sorry, dear. You must have somewhere to be. Everyone has somewhere to be. Right now I am exactly where I need to be," Sarah said, and she realized as she said it that she meant it. They made it to the Glenwood Apartments and Sarah helped Dorothy up the steps and through the lobby. An elevator took them to the 4th floor and Dorothy directed her to apartment 412. Sarah found the keys in Dorothy's small purse and opened the door. The apartment was neat and tidy. Photographs covered every surface. Children and grandchildren, Sarah guessed. There was a worn armchair by the window with a reading lamp and a stack of books on the side table. The smell of lavender hung in the air. Sarah helped Dorothy to the bathroom and found towels. She helped her clean up and then guided her to the bedroom where Dorothy changed into dry clothes. The cut on her forehead was small but Sarah cleaned it carefully with antiseptic and applied a bandage. The bruise on her cheek was already turning purple. "You should probably see a doctor," Sarah said. "That was quite a fall." "I will be fine," Dorothy said, but her voice was tired. "I just need to rest." Sarah made her a cup of tea and found some crackers in the kitchen. She sat with Dorothy in the living room while the rain continued to hammer against the windows. It was 2:55 now. The interview had started without her. Dorothy sipped her tea and looked at Sarah. "You missed something important, did you not?" Sarah smiled a little sadly. A job interview. But it is okay. What kind of job? At a community center. Working with families and seniors. Helping people connect to resources they need. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. That sounds like meaningful work. It would have been, Sarah said. But there will be other opportunities. You are a good person, Sarah Bennett, Dorothy said. Not many people would have stopped today. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, Dorothy said firmly. They would not have. I sat there for almost 20 minutes before you came. People looked at me and kept walking. But you stopped. You gave up something important for a stranger. They sat together until the rain began to ease around 3:30. Dorothy seemed steadier now and had some color back in her face. Sarah made sure she had everything she needed and left her phone number written on a notepad by the telephone. You call me if you need anything at all, Sarah said. I mean it. Thank you, dear, Dorothy said and squeezed her hand. Sarah walked home in the damp afternoon air feeling a strange mixture of sadness and peace. She had missed her dream opportunity, but she had done the right thing. She knew that in her heart. Still, it was hard not to wonder what might have been. The next morning Sarah woke to her phone ringing. An unknown number. Hello. Is this Sarah Bennett? A man's voice. Professional. Formal. Yes, this is Sarah. Miss Bennett, my name is Michael Chambers. I am the executive director of the Riverside Community Center. Sarah's heart sank. He was calling to tell her she was out of consideration. That missing the interview meant she was unreliable. I understand you were scheduled for an interview yesterday, he continued. Yes, sir. I am very sorry I missed it. Something came up. I know what came up, he said and his voice softened. You helped my mother. Sarah's breath caught. Your mother? Dorothy Chambers. She called me last night and told me everything. How you stopped when no one else would. How you missed your interview to make sure she got home safely. How you stayed with her until she was settled. Oh, was all Sarah could manage. Miss Bennett, I have been doing this work for 23 years and I can teach someone about grant writing and program development and community outreach. But I cannot teach someone to have the heart you showed yesterday. That kind of compassion is not something that comes from a textbook. Sarah felt tears beginning to form. If you are still interested in the position, I would very much like to offer it to you. No interview necessary. Anyone who would sacrifice what you sacrificed for a stranger is exactly the kind of person we need on our team. Sarah could not speak for a moment. She wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. I would be honored, she finally said. Wonderful. Can you start Monday? Yes. Absolutely yes. When she hung up, Sarah sat on her couch and let the tears come freely now. Not tears of sadness but of something else. Gratitude maybe. Or relief. Or the simple joy of knowing that kindness still mattered in the world. She thought about Dorothy sitting in the rain. About all those people who walked past. About the choice she had made without really thinking about it. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives are the ones where we simply choose to be human. Where we put aside our own needs and see another person who needs help. Where we stop running toward what we want and start walking alongside someone who needs us. That afternoon on Madison Street, Sarah had thought she was giving up her dream. But really she was stepping into something bigger. Something that had been waiting for her all along. She just had to be willing to see it. And to stop when everyone else kept walking.